At a recent speech in Missouri, Joe Biden was challenged by a cancer survivor on his housing plan. Let's take a look.
When I had cancer, I got evicted.
When I had cancer, I got evicted.
Joe Biden does not have a housing plan for me. We need a home guarantee. Joe Biden takes money from state real estate just like Trump. Where will I live?
All right, so that was activist Diana Caldwell. Now, Tiana Caldwell, she, yes, had cancer, and her family was evicted back in 2018. Now, she had cancer once, she beat it once, and then it came back. So she ended up losing her home, losing a place to live, having to stay in expensive hotels. And by the way, any hotel is pretty much expensive when you have to take your family with you. And so spending up to $500 a day just to have a place to live. And so she went through a harrowing ordeal. And after that eviction, she said, quote, "I found out there were a lot of people going through the same thing. I met a lot of people in support groups who lost their homes. It makes you want to take a stand." Well, I love that because that's exactly what not me, us means. That's exactly what it means to fight for someone you don't know. Because it turns out a lot of people have been through some pretty terrible things. And maybe we should all fight for each other so that we don't have to. Now, she challenged Biden, as you saw. Now we're going to go to Biden's response.
I handle the same way.
Well, you can go in and 3 minutes talk to me after this is over because I'm going to make sure you're not evicted when I'm president of the United States. You can't.
So what's your housing plan? Where's your housing plan? We need a homes guarantee. Where's your housing plan?
Will you commit to a homes guarantee?
Where? I got cancer and I got evicted. That's how they treat you. I got cancer and I got evicted. You need to make sure that the people are okay.
Will you meet with me after this is over and I'll explain to you my entire housing
Why don't you tell all of us?
square? I promise you.
All right. So, in that, you couldn't hear Biden very well, but he basically said, "Quiet down. This isn't a Trump rally. I mean, how dare you, peasant, challenge the great Joe Biden? I've got a housing plan. I'm going to make sure that you don't get evicted." Oh, really? Well, again, that's what happens right now. That's what happened under our old system as well. And so, what are you going to do? What's Biden's plan, right? Well, again, Biden really doesn't have that big of a plan. He has a more moderate approach to housing, which includes provisions for boosting the housing trust fund, okay, expanding tenant protections, okay, and access to legal assistance, guaranteeing housing vouchers for those who qualify, and instating a renter's tax credit. So tax credit for renters, right? So there's no housing guarantee, unlike what you would have with Bernie Sanders, who's the only one saying, yes, let's have a housing guarantee. And by the way, when he was mayor of Burlington, he fought to make sure that instead of helping condo owners, right, he fought with real estate developers, and ended up making sure that there was affordable housing in Burlington. And again, not to mention, you also have, with Bernie Sanders, Medicare for all to make sure that cancer does not take your entire life savings, as it does, right? So now Caldwell, she was right to point out that none of the stuff that Biden is proposing is really good enough for people in her situation. Now, that's not even the most infuriating part, though, okay? So now Biden makes a promise to go and meet with her after the rally. Now, this is something that Bernie Sanders has promised and Bernie Sanders has done. He has sat down with people. He has given people like this woman a microphone, right? in order to tell their story. In fact, if she had been at a Bernie rally, and this is why she's a Bernie Sanders supporter, Tiana would have been given the mic and asked to share her story. Because, Bernie Sanders actually cares about people. But what does Biden do? Well, take a look.
What did you say? You said what? You said he's not going to meet with us after he said he would, and you want us to leave? That's what you said?
Oops. After being escorted out, the Biden staffer told him to wait outside the main rally because they promised that Biden would meet him there to explain his housing program and how it would help Tiana. But that meeting opportunity, as you saw, was rescinded, Caldwell says, and no reason was given for the meeting being canceled. A Biden campaign official said, quote, "There was no way to find them after the event ended. Gone. Jetted out. Not interested." Now, look, maybe, to be fair, Biden just forgot about it. It's not exactly as if we're having questions about Biden's mental competence here. But that's literally the most kindest observation here, is that, maybe this old man just forgot. The other one is, well, not great. The fact that he might have just said, well, I don't really care about that person. I'm just going to leave and get the hell out of here. Now, Tiana talked to reporters, and she told them that, quote, "Hey, look, even if you didn't have answers, why don't you just meet with me anyway? Maybe we can have a conversation about it. Maybe we can talk about it. And maybe she could push him in a better direction," right? Butch says, "Why say that you have a plan and then not speak about it, especially after people like her group are asking about it?" She also noted that afterwards, probably correctly, that the campaign probably just doesn't want to hear from people like her. Shocker, right? Of course. Now, Biden's main message, by the way, is let's go back to the way it was in 2016. Well, 2016, we had a lot of problems as well. Back when Joe Biden was vice president, America still had a lot of problems. And we still didn't have housing guarantees or guarantees to healthcare, and people still went bankrupt over cancer, right? And still lost their homes and still went, lost, all this financial trouble for things that are not their fault. But that's the message of the Biden campaign is no, everything is going to be normal if we just go back to what we were before. Well, that's basically blue MAGA. That's the Democrats' MAGA. Because think about it, right? We'll go back to the normal, right? We'll get Trump out. We'll go back to the same policies, the same thing that we were doing before, maybe a couple of tiny little tweaks to the system, but that'll fix everything. But wait, if everything was so great before, and it wasn't, then why do we have Trump? Because normal, healthy political systems do not create people like Trump. They just don't. What this is that it's a call to return to a mythical time when, let's face it, middle-class white liberals were more comfortable. Because the working class has been uncomfortable for a very, very long time. And I'm not saying white working class, which they're included as well, but you've got working class people of color that are barely getting by. And so, look, that's what we had. They didn't worry about the president putting out mean tweets because that's the big thing, right? Oh, I can't believe this lack of decorum. Why must you be so unpleasant online? They didn't have Bernie bros up in their mentions that are depriving them of the moral high ground by pointing out that 45 to 68,000 people a year die from lack of health care. And they'd been doing so even before President Trump had been chipping away at Obamacare. Yes, this was a thing that was still happening during the Obama-Biden years, where we've been calling out and saying, hey, maybe we need a Medicare for all system. Or even back then, people were saying, well, if not Medicare, at least we can have a public option and then work towards a truly universal healthcare system. Remember, ACA wasn't supposed to be the end-all be-all. I remember hearing it pitched as, well, it's the first step to a truly universal healthcare system, and we just have to expand it. And now these same white liberals are saying, no. The ACA is fine. We just need to do a tiny little bit of tweaks, but keep the system the same. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They want incremental change, nice and easy, polite, normal corporatism, where only those at the bottom are uncomfortable, but we don't have to hear them. Those loud people. Out of sight, out of mind. That's what Joe Biden and his followers want to return to. Okay. In fact, there were responses to this video by Biden supporters, and they are exactly what you would expect. These are not Trump people, right? One person on Twitter said this: she does not get a pass on being rude. Well, look, I'm sorry that she's so upset and rude, but literally losing her home, getting evicted for having cancer and not being able to afford to treat cancer and afford a home at the same time, yeah, you're going to get loud and you're going to get a little rude. Another one here and says, and that's Joe's fault? There's a much better way to get your point across. Screaming over people talking will get you nowhere. Yeah, you're going to try to get Joe Biden's attention, and she did. And then Biden ditched her. Oh, stop being so loud. Stop being so mean. Well, if not, now when? Right? When are we allowed to get loud? To yell, right? When are we allowed to do that? When are we allowed to try to make our voices heard, that there are actual real problems? It seems like there's never a good time for them. It's never the right time. Oh, no. You can't do that. You're going to help Donald Trump. And then if somehow another centrist gets elected, Joe Biden, well, we can't endanger our majority, so shut up. We're going to help the other side. No, we've got to win this election. And then if we lose a majority, right? Well, I mean, you're going to help the other side, so shut up. Because now we've got to win back this stuff. And we got to win back the White House. On and on and on. It's the same cycle. Never a good time. This is what Martin Luther King Jr. called the white moderate, right? And the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. That is the cancer that is in our political system, the poison, right? And now another said, by the way, quote, sorry you got cancer, but shut up and listen. It's another response to that. And that's what happens to men and women of color who speak out against the status quo. They get shut up, they get shut out, and they get ignored. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.